Midwestern Movie Reviewer here with another movie review. I recently saw highly anticipated Alien Romulus in theaters in 4DX. I had been anticipating, waiting for this movie since I saw the trailer, 2 years ago? It feels like that. They release these trailers so early, and then you're just like, is it this week? Is it this week? Is it this week? 14 weeks later, and then finally it's here. And I was going to see it at IMAX. I got sick and couldn't go until this morning. Torture, but it was worth the wait. Okay, what was this movie about? I'm going to just put you out of your misery, give you a little bit of a trailer, and then we'll start talking about it.
Is this really where you want to spend the rest of your life?
You know I don't.
Then this is our only ticket out of here.
What's happening?
There's something in the water.
What do you mean there's something in the water?
No, there's just something in the fucking water.
Okay, so the premise of this movie was there's some space colonizers on a mining colony on some planet, I don't remember what, and they realize that they're never going to get out of this life unless they take the bull by the reins. They are going to escape to an empty space station and use that to get to then send themselves, in cryostasis or something like that, to another planet where they can have their happy ending, their happy life. So that's how it gets started. This movie is the newest in a series of 7 Alien films. You are probably familiar with the early ones that had Sigourney Weaver starring as Ripley in these films. They were back in the 90s. They were so scary and fun. And this is from the mind of Ridley Scott. Such a great series. I'm going to go into Golden Nugget later on in the video about the influence these films have had. So please stay till that. But just know, this is the 7th in this series. So these movies have been going on for like 30 or 40 years now. And going off of this one, if they keep going, they still have a great future because this was well done. It was directed by someone named Fede Alvarez. I was not familiar with his work. With his name, but I am familiar with his work. He directed a couple of other scary series, Don't Breathe 1 and 2, and one of the most recent Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. Very, very great scary series, and he does great with that type of material. You can see some of the influences of that in this film. Some of the notable actors in this film were Kaylee Spaney as a character called Rain, David Johnson as a character named Andy, and you also had Isabella Merced, Aileen Wynn, Archie Renaud, and Spike Fearn. Some of the things I loved about this film was that even though the material is so familiar, if you've seen all these different films, although they give you those same creatures, you have those little crab things with the tails, and you have the xenomorphs with the long faces and teeth. They also give you some fresh things, some very, very special things that, of course, no spoilers, you're going to love, is all I'm going to say. This director did an amazing job. I love the interaction between the characters. Kaylee Spaney, her character Rain, and Andy, they had a very familiar bond that was just so sweet, and I loved how they interacted. I love to see some of the scenes, like you see in the preview that this is an old battered ship that they're on, and as every alien movie has, tons of vomiting, tons of gross things, dismembered bodies, horrible things sucked onto people's faces, things exploding out of people's bodies, those familiar things. You're going to love this. I cannot tell you enough. And I have to like hold myself back because there's so many great things. This movie moves at, although it's 2 hours long, it moves at such a great pace. It never dragged. You were just enwrapped the whole time. And at times, although partially probably because I saw this in 40X, but at other times because it was terrifying, you're about to come out of your seat. It was amazing. You do not have to see this in 40X. But if you want a full immersive experience, go see it in 40X, IMAX, see it. I don't know if it's in 3D, but go see it in these ways to really experience this film while it's in theaters and the best immersive possible experience. I loved it in 40X. A standout character for me was David Johnson. He's a British actor that I was not familiar with. He has been in mostly BBC type stuff. He's on a series on Max called The Industry. I was interested in seeing that, and now I'm going to see that he's in this. Was a fantastic actor. I can't wait to see him. As I already said, Kaylee Spaney's in this. She does a fantastic job. She's about to become one of my favorite actresses. I've seen her in several things lately. Priscilla, she did a great job in. This, another movie, I can't remember what, but she is really shooting up as a new rising star in films. The rest of the crew does a fantastic job as well. They do such a great job of just character development in brief ways with these films. You get the gist of these people, and then you really just get to be involved in the fear and the experience of how are they going to get out of this. But you do get to enjoy the characters as well. It's very brief. There's not a whole lot of character development, but you have your main character that you're really following, which is Kaylee Spaney, and they do give you a lot of background on her. So I felt like it was well done. Now for my golden nugget about this film. This movie has influenced cinema in so many ways, in so many years. I love the Alien series, and so I can't wait to tell you guys about this. There's an element of all these films of lost in space. And at times, it will be a character, just a single character in a spaceship, trapped in one of these things with one of these xenomorph creatures. And you're like, oh my God, how are they going to get out of this? Well, that element you've seen in like movies like Gravity and other alien movies, where there's either just an element of you're lost in space, like Martian, or there's actual creatures after you. There's, the Predator films that also went along with Alien. So that is one way they've influenced cinema. Also, there's an element of futuristic realism with these things, or I call it grungy space movies, where everything looks so realistic, so old and dirty, but it's the future because they're flying around in spaceships. So you see this in Star Wars, The Matrix, some of these like type movies. They were influenced by Alien, except for not Star Wars, because it came out kind of before this or around the same time as the original one. So, but just that type of a set that looks so realistic and futuristic as well as old and grungy was something that they did with this series. Another thing that is well known for these movies is women at the helm. So you had Sigourney Weaver in the early ones. One of the other ones had Noomi Rapace. And then this one has Kaylee Spaney as the main character that you're really rooting for in these films. So that was something unique for this type of a genre. Another thing that's kind of weird, but also cool, is the element that there's birth and death a lot in these films. You have a lot of these creatures going through their different phases of death and rebirth. And then also in one of them, Noomi Rapace got pregnant, I think, by the creature and had to do an abortion or a C-section or something to get the child out and get rid of this alien baby. This is a theme with these movies, and it's terrifying, and it gets you so enwrapped into them, and it's actually part of the theme of these movies. Also, many video games have been influenced by Alien series. If you are familiar with the games Halo, that references Alien throughout the series several times. There's also these creatures, the xenomorphs, and everything about them, their ships, their suits, and their forms, everything was influenced by an artist named H.R. Giger. Ridley Scott was trying to figure out, how should I design creatures for this film? And he saw this guy's artwork, and it had it all there. And he's like, let's get Giger and let him go. And he designed everything. So he designed the physical costumes, the suits, the spaceships, everything for the xenomorph and all the little creatures that went along with it. So I'm going to put a link to a video about him and how he developed this. It was really fascinating and interesting. He also, because of all of that stuff that he developed, this turned around and it was an influence to special effects and makeup and a lot of other things for cinema and space movies and just movies in general. And this is a side note. You may have noticed in one of the older movies, a cat survived with Ripley. It was on the spaceship. And you'll see nods in other horror movies, such as like A Quiet Place recently, different things where they will have an element of a cat. And that's a throwback or a nod to that Alien series or Alien movie that had that in there. Last but not least, these movies are so well known for their gore, so much fluids and just yucky, gross stuff that's very shocking. And they have done a lot for movie gore, and just a lot of other movies will give homage to the dripping and the scary teeth and just the speed with these creatures, all kinds of things. This series has done so much for cinema. And if you have a chance, you have a long weekend, Thanksgiving, Halloween, whatever, it'd be a great time to do a marathon and watch these movies and give homage to Ridley Scott, because he really was the one who started this series and gave us Alien. Midwestern, once again, please like, subscribe, and comment. Midwestern Movie Reviewer out.